these tips about how I edit my photos might be useful for you. I will use Luminar Neo on this particular session of editing. Hi, it's Peter here, and let's get right into the business. But before that, we need to talk about the disclaimer. This video is not sponsored by Skylum, the maker of Luminar Neo, nor do they know that I'm making this video. However, I do have some affiliate links down below in the description of this video. There are some good deals because Luminar Neo is 1 year old. You might want to check those if you are using Luminar Neo, because they do have some deals for those who are already purchased it, and if you haven't yet, you might check it out and see if that's something for you, because Luminar Neo is a really interesting image editing software. But now let's get into the real stuff of this video. Editing is something that you need to do on your images for two reasons. First of all, the stuff that comes out of camera is just a raw image. And when I'm saying raw image, I mean also JPEGs and RAW formats. They're both kind of raw images. It's just straight out of camera and it's not ready, because you want to edit the image to look the way the situation was when you took the image. Another part might be that you want to make those images feel like you felt the time or during the time you took that image. And that's another big thing. And I think felt is the key word here, because that is something that you probably felt something and why you took the photograph. And another question is why and felt. Those are the things, and why also applies to image editing, why you do certain things. And we'll talk about that while I edit these 5 photos that I took on a photo walk that I had last week. It was early morning, as you can see from the light. And these are the 5 images that I picked from that session. I don't usually shoot a ton of images. I think I took about 20 images in whole, and these 5 are the best ones. And in the end, probably I will go down to only 1. But these are the 5 images that I'm going to edit out of those 20. I never edit a huge amount of the session. I always pick the best ones and then edit those and see how they work. But I also do so that I will go back to those images later, let's say after a couple of weeks, and I might take a look and see and if I find something different, because we might not see at the first glance the best ones. We might find it later, and when I was talking about feeling, we might feel a different way when we look at the images the next time. We have a bit of a distance from the actual act of making the photos. And that's really important to look with the fresh eye to images. Do you ever go back to your archives and find some gems, or look at for new images and get inspired by those? Before we dive into the editing process, let's first talk about why I took these images. Like I said, it was early morning, and I didn't really realize that it's going to be a really bright sky on that morning. It's not very common at this time of year. It's February here in Finland right now. And on that day there was no snow. Now if you go outside, the scene is totally different. There's a lot of snow. And what of course struck me was the early morning light, which is usually the best light. And equally best is the evening light. And luckily here in Finland, because it's quite north, we do have a long golden hour and a blue hour. We are talking about hours, not minutes. It is actually a blue hour or golden hour, and that makes the photographing a lot easier. You get a lot more images done. And this first one is a place downtown. It's a photograph of Art Museum Kiasma here in downtown Helsinki. And it's a very interesting building. Architect was Stephen Hall. And I saw this person walking. Like I said, it was early morning, around 6 or 7 a.m. I think. I didn't actually check the time. And I waited for someone to walk there. Yes, the perfect shot would have been if the person would have the perfect position, but I kind of, it didn't match, but I think it's good enough. And what struck me was of course the blue sky, and then the what's that called? Pink color, and then the yellow color on the wall, and then of course the leading lines that leads towards that. But I wanted someone to be there, even though it was pretty empty at that time of the day, and that's why I took this image. And then exactly to the opposite side, I looked back, and this is always something you should do when you're looking at something, when you're photographing. Then take a look what's behind you and see if there is an image, because I knew that the light was coming from that direction and I saw this. It didn't come out that well. It would have been good if there was some person in the foreground that was lit, but you know, there weren't any people walking on that at that particular time, and then of course it would have been in the dark, so that would have probably not worked. Maybe a car could have been. The light on the glass wall was really something that I liked, and that's why I took the image. And then these three images of a building which is called Lasipalatsi, Glass Palace. Don't ask me why the name is Glass Palace. What I like about this is the contrast between the neon lights. Yes, I really like these neon lights. I'm not sure if they're real neon lights, but that's what they look like. And it's an art museum called Amos Rex, which is a private museum, very popular and really good. And I took several images of this. Maybe this one is not, it's too busy and not really interesting. What I was thinking when I took this image was sign and then neon light and then the front entrance, but it didn't really work that well, so I might ditch this one. But then these two are really interesting, which I really like, and for some reason on this one I like the empty shot, which doesn't have the person in the front. For some reason it's better. It's kind of timeless in a way, and what I like about this image is that this works in black and white and color, but I'm gonna use the colors because I really like the RGB colors that it has, so it in very bright colors, and like I said, I really like the what do you call the neon lights. But let's dive in to the editing part. I use Lightroom in all my images. I import the images into Lightroom and then I will use plugins, and this time I'm using Luminar Neo as a plugin because I think these images are perfect for Luminar Neo. Okay, here we are in Lightroom, and how I use this is I use it as a plugin, like I said. Plugin extras, transfer to Luminar Neo, and it'll open up the image in Neo. And what we have here is we go to edit, and as you see, the image is a bit noisy, so I will use the noiseless. And I just use high because it was high ISO, and it will do its magic. And once it's done its magic, it looks better. I'm not really happy with the sky here, but that's what it is. We'll deal that with a bit later. And then I see there is a plane there which is slightly annoying, and what I will do is to use the erase tool and just paint over it and press erase, and voila. It takes a little time because I'm you know, it's a bit slower than usual because I'm recording the screen at the same time, so that's why it takes a bit longer than it usually does, and it's gone and you don't really see it. Then there's one thing that I want to fix with this is the perspective, and if I remember correctly, it's from develop where we can do that, and we can do transform, and then we have this tool here. Just click it and it will make the image straight. That was quite quick, and now it's more level. There is a slight, you know, perspective error on this part, but we don't care about that right now that much. And then what we have here is, of course, we have smart contrast, which I will usually add a bit contrast, and as you can see, it makes it a lot better looking, the image already. And then the temperature slider is always something that I try. Maybe make it a bit cooler so the sky looks a little better. And then add some vibrance to the colors, and we start to get the pink in the middle. And this image might also benefit from using the magic light, because, you know, to make some sun stars on this and make it a little bigger, and usually the clearness is nice. And what I like about this Luminar Neo is that it is quite easy to use. Sometimes the tools are a bit hard to find because I don't use this that much, but sometimes on images like this, I think it's a perfect tool for image editing, this type of images. And structure is always something that I try to do and check out. Usually might make the sky worse looking. Yes, on this time it doesn't work. Don't use that on this. And then what we check out this color harmony and adding some brilliance. As you can see how the yellows and the pink color really comes out, and it doesn't make it too green. There's maybe I'll add some warmth to the image, and now it starts to look a bit better. It starts to come alive with this. And as you see, I'm not really doing that much of image editing. It's quite subtle to do. And relight is always something that you would want to try, because it will brighten up the, now it doesn't show here, it will brighten up, yeah, now you can see, but it's too much to brighten up. And then brightness far, it will open up the brightness in the background, and now the sky starts to look a little bit better. And this we can add the depth, how much we want the relighting to be in the depth. But all these images tools are, whoops, I made a mistake, sorry about that. Let's have it like this, I think it is. And then we can do some things that I always do, which is always like someone commenting, why do we want to vignette when we want images or lenses that doesn't vignette, and even though we add vignetting to the image. But that's something we do because I can control the amount of vignetting, and the vignetting doesn't affect the sharpness. If I want, on an image like this, I think sharpness is something that we want. But I think it came out quite nice, and then we'll just apply and it will come back to Lightroom. I think I'll skip that one because it doesn't really. And now we have it here, and let's look at how it is side by side. If we look at them side by side, and it looks a lot better. I still don't like the sky that much. I might fix that later with some other denoising software, because Luminar Neo isn't at its best when denoising, but it became a lot better image. Let's go back, and then I'll think I'll take this image, because this is my favorite from this. And if I would, do all of these, it'd take too long time. But we go up there and plugin extras and Luminar Neo. What I like about the plugin system in Lightroom is that it will bring back the image to Lightroom catalog, so I can kind of like work behind the scenes in Lightroom with the plugins, and I think that's something that is really good. And like I said about this image, the first thing I'm gonna do is to crop, and there is also a composition. Let's see what it says if I wanted to crop. No, I didn't like this crop at all, and this one doesn't look good. Let's don't apply it. Let's do it manually. And like I said, what I will do is, let's do original 4:3, and what I would do with the cropping is I'd crop it like this, and then I would, something like this. I think it looks better like this, so that it was quite busy on this side, so that's why I think this one looks better. And this one doesn't need any noise reduction, but what we will do is go to develop and add some smart contrast. It'll, boost up and then I will probably that, and then again, we'll think about the color. Maybe go a little bluish and do some warm, some vibrance, so to get really these colors pop, because I think this image is all about this red bluish color here and then the green. And what we had here is the enhance, which probably works for this image quite well. And let's see how the sky enhancer works on this. I should have tried this on the other image, but it was a bit noisy, so this one it works better. And this becomes a bit of a candy, this image, so it is something that many of you might not like. And then what we do here, what I always like to try is magic light. Let's see if this, on this one it doesn't. No, on this one doesn't work, because this one is not very natural. We could mask it out, but then no, this one doesn't work at all with that. And yeah, vignetting again, we can do it here right now and see how it gets a bit darker, not too much, do it very subtle. And then there was one I always the dramatic on this one could work to make it a bit more dramatic, and it actually kind of like adds some contrast to the image. And then not the mystical, oops, it was not development, but color it was. Yes, colors. We add some vibrance to it, and then we can always look how it works with the color cast. Maybe, yeah, it'll make it a bit darker, but to be honest, it looks a bit dark. I think I'll open up the shadows slightly to make it more interesting. And I want to leave this blue because it is white, the building is white, but I want to leave this white, blue, because it reflects the blue sky here. Let's see on this one, a slight soft focus, so it will, as you can see from the lights, you can make really nice soft focus, or you want them to glow, a slight glow there. That yeah, it doesn't work. I think the Orton effect also is something that could work. No, it's way too much on this, but soft focus could be. And then we have some, we can adjust and then the warmth, the glow, soft focus. Yeah, that was probably a bit too much. Maybe take it down slightly, but yeah, this is not, yeah, right there, I think is a good thing. Yeah, now I think it works as an image like that. I like it. And as you see, not very big adjustments, just slight adjustments to the image, to the tone, to the feel. And I want them to be, or these images to look a bit candy type. So that works. But let's try to see how this is when I take it back to Lightroom. And it does its job. And like I said, it takes a little bit longer than usual. And here we have it. And let's compare these two images now and see how it is. And yeah, it looks a little bit better. And this is a photograph with, of course, ETTR, so that this part doesn't, or the highlights doesn't blow out. And as you can see, the colors are quite subtle. And here on the Luminar version, the colors pop. And it is I admit it is a bit candyish, or looks too candy. But what do you think about these images? Did I do the right thing? What would you have done with the images? Did I do the right things? Of course, it's my personal idea and my personal thing to do. So I'm not sure if you would do the same things. And that's the beauty of photography, because we photograph it, we see things differently, we photograph things differently, and then we edit things differently. So from the same scene, we get as many different interpretations as there are photographers. And that's a big beauty of photography. And that's why sometimes a photo walk with someone is interesting, and see how they photograph the same thing. Have you ever done that, so that you go out and then you compare the images and talk about the images? That's a good way of learning too, that you go to the same place, photograph the same things, and then compare the images after editing and talk about them and see what's good in the other person's image and how they see the things, because the way you see is important, and learning how others see the things, it's about understanding their way of thinking is really important if you want to be better in photography. And then remember that there are some affiliate links to the deal that Luminar Neo is right now having, and here you can see the prices right now. These are prices for me. I don't know, they might be a bit different for everyone, but it depends on what you already have and not have. Check those offers if you're interested in Luminar Neo. I think it's a marvelous and easy way of editing images. It can be a bit overwhelming, but there are a lot of tutorials online about Luminar Neo, and learn to do, but don't do everything. There are so many things to do with, or you can do with these tools. Play around with them and see what works best for your images. And that particular image, like now, I wanted them to be a bit candy and bright colors, and so to look well, candy. I don't know what other word they could be. Really bright and vibrant colors. That's how I felt when I took the images, because like I said, early morning sun is spectacular, because we don't get that much sun at this time of year here in Finland. So that's why I was very happy that I was able to go out and photograph during that particular morning. And I hope you enjoyed the video, and here are some more videos, or actually it's on that side, some more videos about Luminar Neo. But hey, thanks for watching and bye for now.